Now, I usually don't do this and wasn't going to get into it this year, but here's everyone's favorite exercise, your power rankings.
We doing everything they talk about. You know I'm everything a boss about. Not putting work and gotta toss them.
I wasn't going to get into it this year, but I think it's time. I think it's time I dive into the everyone's favorite exercise to do, and that's power rankings, right? Never really was one getting into the hoopla or the drama or the you know picking your ranking teams, but it's a fun exercise. I'm not gonna lie. So let's do it. We're gonna dive into power rankings. These are my preseason ELF power rankings. All right, heading into week 5, and these are gonna change week to week, and we're gonna talk about it. So I broke my power rankings into 4 tiers. All right, tier number 1 are the teams I still got to see it to believe it. Teams that still have something to prove, right? So let's start from the bottom and work our way up, right? So coming in at number 16, we have the Cologne Centurions. Even though we saw some bright spots with them last year, finished fairly strong. Isaiah Lee was a bright spot. They still lose some guys, especially on the defensive front. Use Lorak to the Rhine Fire. And to be honest, the Rhine Fire coming into the league have been the biggest threat to Cologne. Similar territories. They just haven't been able to recruit on the same level. And my biggest thing with Cologne is depth. I don't know what that depth looks like. I'm interested to see what Musa looks like. Osborne. I know they got Ivan Garcia, a Spanish receiver. And defensively, I still want to see who they're going to bring in and how Jalen Hart is going to learn from what he's seen there in the past. Because remember, he was there for a couple of years, took a step away, now he's back. So he's familiar with it. Obviously, bringing in Quentin Pounds to run the offense. We'll see. But Cologne comes in number 16 for me. Number 15, the Enthroners. I respect that the Enthroners are a team that will run their franchise the way they want it, and they don't care, what other people think. They've built their team up front, right? No offense or buts about it. Defense should be better, and we saw improvement last year. Even though they won 2 wins, we saw some improvement. But you bring in Barkovic, you bring in Zek, you bring in Miles Butt. All right, you still got Emmett Gooden, you got Crenshaw on the defensive side. All right, offensively, Brock Bowman. You can check out my interview I had with him. I love the guy so far. Richard Steele returning back to the Enthroners. I need to see more weapons, to be honest, to kind of get a feel of what the team's going to look like. The Enthroners coming in number 15 for me. Berlin comes in at 14. And I think Berlin is interesting because I feel like Berlin is taking an approach, at least for me, that this is a team that if they all come back, is going to be better next year than they are this year. And why do I say that? Because I think this year they're extremely young, a lot of young talent, especially at receivers, especially at DBs. Jacob Solomon's back. Nikolai Schulman is back at tight end. What is Berlin going to look like? Jack Ball's the head coach. You bring in you're doing Adam Rita, who was the head coach for Barcelona. The offense that he's going to get, he's going to push the ball downfield. They're going to be a high power, try to be a high power passing offense. But they do got a little bit of a hard schedule. You see Cologne, you see Russelhoff, you see Nordic, right? Hamburg, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Rhine Fire. They're in a hard conference. And I think that experience is going to be tested, especially in pivotal moments and situational ball. So for me, I'm bringing in Berlin at number 14. 13, Helvetic. Helvetic by a slight margin. Like what they did in terms of showing that they can recruit and bring in talent. Defensive line should be decent, right? You bring in DeMarco Artis, you bring in RJ Sagna, loaded at linebacker. DB is going to be a little bit concerned for me. Offensive line still a little bit of concern. How does Coach Horford turn the page with this team going forward? I like Isaiah Weed. I like Keenan Cole. I like bringing in Milan Spiller. So we'll see. Helvetic coming at 13. And hard schedule. You see Parrish, you see Nordic. And then you got to go through the South. And the South has, evil mastermind, offensive coordinator Andrew Weidinger, a Raiders team that they'll never beat, and a Munich team that is still going to be tough to beat. So we'll see. But Helvetics are coming at 13 for me. Number 12, the team that probably took the biggest and probably closer to the next tier, the Prague Lions. Love what they did on defense. Arthur Kingdom, King Hike, Jalen Embry, right? Some of the imports that they brought in, strong up front. James Brooke running the defense. He's going to be aggressive. All right, he's gonna blitz, but he's also going to play a lot of man. And I kind of like, the mold that he wants to build his defense on. On the other side, you got Javarian Smith at quarterback, Willie Patterson at receiver, still Redim Kalous. Receiving court that's pretty good for a group of homegrowns, right? So we'll see. I think Adam Zuzeka still running the backfield, if I'm not mistaken. You spent 4 E's up front. The Prague Lions should be fairly better than what they've had shown their first couple of years. Prague comes in at number 12. This next tier number 3. Tier number 3, I'm calling it the bracket busters. I think these guys on any given day can upset any of the following teams within tier 2. Tier 1, I don't think so, but within tier 2, and it can make things interesting. So let's get right to it. The Wrocław Panthers, like what they've done. Obviously, they've addressed DBs. They bring back Carlos Browns on the defensive line, right? The secondary has always been a question for them. What helps a great secondary? A guy who can rush the passer, and you still got AJ Wentland in the middle. Right? On offense, even though you lose some receivers, Kasper Jazowski and I believe Jacob Mazan, but don't quote me, you bring in Darrell Stewart Jr., you bring in Eric Otender, right? If they can find a good number 3, I think Bazan is Bennett is back. David Brzozowski, I can see this being a spread offense, zone read, DJ Irons in the backfield. We'll see. All right, but the Panthers, maybe a little light and not as deep as I initially thought they were going to be at receiver, but we'll see. But they're going to come in at number 11 for me. Number 12, the Munich Ravens. Interesting offseason for Munich. And interesting because it's just been quiet. Still looking to see, what they do in regards to getting Russell some more weapons. We saw some of the guys that they're starting to trickle in and bring in. And did they improve? I don't think we know enough yet to say that they improve. But to be honest, I think the South is more open than people give it credit for. I think the Raiders are a better team. I think Munich has potential to be better, right? Helvetic improved from what they were last year. And then you got Madrid, right? Madrid playoff team, right? We saw what Andy Weidinger was able to do last time he was head coach, right? So the South is going to be a little bit harder than people think. How much has Munich improved, in order to maybe take over the South again? Not take over the South, but maybe win the division. We'll see. Coming in at number 10? Coming in at number 9, we got the Raiders. Raiders are one of the most complete teams that a lot of people are sleeping on. I think offensively, offensive line is stacked. Receiving room, you bring in Sullivan to go with your 3 homegrown receivers and Han Platzkummer and Marco Schneider. You got a 3-headed monster at running back, Tim Tonka, Hazelvanter. You got Bonatti, Connor Miller. Personally, one of the best signings in regards to fit and to organization and scheme that we've seen this year in the ELF, I think. All right, we'll see. Defensively, how's that D-line going to look? How's Aaron Maddox and Darren Wells Jr. going to be able to, and Vincent Mueller going to be able to hold down the secondary, right? We'll see. I think the Raiders can make things interesting in the South. I know I just said that about Munich. I think the Raiders can make things interesting as well, too. So they're going to come in at number 9. Number 8, a team that is trying to make a comeback. The Hamburg Sea Devils. You look at this team, you look at the personality, you look at how they built the roster, you look at, how deep they are at certain spots. This team could be dangerous. And we're waiting to see if they're going to get back to where they were. You bring in Coach Fatah, who has a lot of respect in all of Europe and Germany and as a German national coach. And we're hearing nothing but great things. Leon at quarterback, Kyle Kitchens obviously comes in. Hamburg's going to be something to mess with. So they are coming at number 8 for me. Tier number 2, the Wildcard fighters. All right, coming at number 7, Paris. All right, Paris Musketeers. And I mean this in the most respectful way possible. What is the difference between Jalen Henderson and Zach Magic Edwards? All right, Think about that for a second. Returns, like, because if you think they're going to bring back most of their roster, how much of a difference is Jalen from Zach? I think Del Rio's the impact there. I don't think Del Rio is going to have Jalen try to take over the game or put the game in his hands. I think he's going to run the ball with Vavombo. I think they're going to use a lot of play action. I think they're going to make sure Jalen is not putting the team on his back or has to put the team on his back, even though he's capable of doing that. And obviously, he brings a lot of excitement and his history in Europe in general. So we're excited to see how this happens. I think Zach was more of an improviser. I think they put more on Zach's plate. I think Zach was put in a position or tried to put in a position where, it was him or nothing sometimes, right? So we're going to see. But the difference between Jalen and Zach is going to be the question for Paris. And is it enough to get this team over the hump after they just made it to the semis the year before? Number 6, Madrid. Madrid at number 6. I think Madrid has built a great roster. You talk about Andrew Weidinger. You talk about the running backs, Molina and Nico Barrow, and the receivers that they got. And you look at the history, what Andrew's been able to do. But I think the teams in the South are a little closer than people give them credit for. I think Raiders and Munich are a little closer than what people give them credit for. I think they might be more physical, or at least their brand has shown that they play a physical brand of ball. So Madrid, is Madrid just running away with the conference? Are we ready to just give Madrid the conference? I don't think so. All right. Madrid's going to come in at number 6. I like the Andrew Weidinger effect. I think this is a deep receiving group. Reece Sinet, a lot of hype. He's been quiet, but a lot of hype in regards to his experience and what he's been able to do. If Reece Sinet is the guy we all think he is, then Madrid definitely is going to take the division, in my opinion. But we'll see, right? These are preseason rankings, all right? By the way, drop a comment. Let me know what you guys think, all right? Coming in at number 4, everyone's favorite new kid on the block, the Nordic Storm. I think Nordic, before we get to Nordic, even though I just gave Nordic away, right? Let's take a step back. Frankfurt comes in at number 5. I think Frankfurt, we believed a lot of hype with Frankfurt last year. And I'm hesitant this year. But when you look at their roster, having 3 guys up front that are probably in the top 50 in offensive linemen, having a deep receiving core, Nico Straumann, Paul Leinhart, Terry White Jr. You look at that secondary. You look at that defense. I think Frankfurt's hype last year should go with this year's Frankfurt team, right? I'm putting Frankfurt at number 5. I think they're going to be a team to mess with. They're in a hard conference, don't get me wrong, but I like Frankfurt's built. I like, you got 2, maybe the top 3 tackles in the game, and Ebanks and Nielsen. Yannick Kiel at guard or center. McKay back at quarterback. Sandro Platzkummer finished the season strong last year. Now, how does this season look for him? Frankfurt's going to be a team to mess with, all right? Number 4. All right. How fast does Nordic come together? That's the biggest question. We see with new teams and how they gel, and we saw what Madrid did last year. But how fast does Nordic come together? A lot of talent, a lot of guys in that roster with experience. It's not going to be necessarily new, but we all know you're only as good as your homegrowns, right? So the Nordic team's going to be fun to watch. They're going to be interesting to watch. They got Berlin week 1. They got 2 ELF MVPs and guys that have won the championship. They're going to be a good team, a fun team to watch, and I'm excited, except when they play Helvetic. All right. But wildcard fighters, those are my wildcard fighters. All right. And then we get to tier number 1, championship ready. We go chalk here. There's no need to waste time. Surge, the team that's going to be a lot more physical, I think, when you look at their running backs, when you look at their receivers, when you look at their motivation going into this year. I think this is a team that is coming in with a chip on their shoulder, and it's going to be a dangerous team. A Jordan Newman chip on your shoulder, dangerous type of team, right? How does Riley Hennessy bounce back from the playoff loss in regards to how that ended, right? Is he out on a revenge tour? Lewis Geyer, I'm sure he'll return. Hasn't been announced yet. Obviously, he's going to do the CFL thing, but you look at Jeff Cotton Jr., you look at Daniel Pedro, Surge are going to be here, right? There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Surge are going to be here. Harder schedule, harder division, but the Surge are here. Number 2, Vienna Vikings, maybe the best roster. We look at all their weapons on offense, and we look at what they've done on defense. Obviously, Ben Holmes is back. You know, Vienna's going to be there, and they're going to run through the East. We all know that, unless proven otherwise. Their biggest thing is how do I get over the hump, right? You get to the Natty, you lose to the Fire. You get to the semis a couple years ago, you lose to the Surge. What's it going to take to win a championship again? Do they have enough? I think this is their deepest roster. I think this is their most complete roster. I think this is their most talented roster. Divine Buckram in the back at safety, Timmy Nuka to pair him up with Swanker. You saw what they did up front. You sing in Stroffel at left tackle after the retirement of Alexander. Ben Holmes in the backfield. Vienna's going to be here. But until proven otherwise, the best team in the league is the Ryan. How big of a loss is Jadrian Clark when you bring in Chad Jeffries, a guy that's been in the MVP running since he's been in the league, right? Chad Jeffries is no slump. Chad Jeffries is not going to be a drop-off. And their defense, most of their defense is returning. Nash is returning from injury. Omari Williams is back, right? They improved their D-line with a couple homegrown and European that they brought in. Richard Kent obviously still calling that defense. You got Coach Warner calling the offense now, who has offensive line experience, right? Ryan Fire are experienced. Ryan Fire are deep. They have a certain expectation that is clearly stronger than a lot of other teams, at least what they've shown over the past couple of years, being a two-time ELF champ. Chad Jeffries is now running the team. Until proven otherwise, Ryan Fire are coming in at number one. Vienna Vikings have a Ryan Fire problem. Surge have a Ryan Fire problem. Two teams that have been in the top three over the past couple of years cannot get past the Ryan Fire. Therefore, my preseason rankings, Ryan Fire deserves to be number one. Drop a comment. Let me know what you guys think. Everyone's favorite preseason power rankings, ELF Season 5.